All right. Welcome again to another one of our behavior streams. Unfortunately, Amy's feeling a little bit under the weather today, so you're just kind of stuck with me today. All right. So today I have a little mini presentation and then we'll get to questions. All these without Eugen here or Amy here, it always feels just a little bit lonely, just me talking to you. All right. So today's topic is going to be one of performance, right? Like, okay, so what am I talking about when I talk about performance, right? Well, like when you have kids and there's something wrong, you take them in to get assessed and things like that. And a lot of the assessments are actually based on ideal conditions, right? Like what is the child capable of doing, right? Capable of performing. Okay. And I've talked about it before, which is ABA doesn't take that same approach. It doesn't look at what you're capable of doing. It looks at what you actually do. What is your day-to-day performance, right? And I think a lot of people have this question, which is why do kids with autism have so much difference in their overall responding from moment to moment to day? Sometimes you have it where, oh, they can always do it with mom, but never with dad, or, oh, they only do it under these conditions, but no other times, right? So I'm a little bit here to kind of clarify or to shine a little bit light on that topic. All right. Now, someone's performance is really dependent on a couple of key factors, right? One is your skill set, right? And by skill set, I really mean, oh, the knowledge that you have, the understanding you have of the skill to be performed, and being able and knowledgeable about being able to do something, right? And motivation. Okay. And motivation is about like, oh, do you want to do it? And how much do you want to do something? Okay. And someone's performance is really keyed into these two aspects. All right. Now, the thing with performance is that you can be very motivated to do something, but if you don't have the skills to do it, you're just gonna fail very enthusiastically, right? So, like, it doesn't matter how much I want to drywall or I want to race a car or whatever it is that you're asking someone to do. If they don't have the underlying skill set to do it, they're not going to be successful. Okay. Now, I grabbed this image off the internet. Hopefully, it's a non-domain image. Okay. But this is the same image that a long time ago I took way back when I was going to community college. I had a great professor and there was a really good video on teaching and motivation and all those kind of aspects. And he used this specific image as a really clear kind of guide for us in terms of understanding the distinction between motivation and skill set or knowledge, right? Yeah. Now, from what I remember, and remember, this is a really long time ago, about half the people that watch that are watching will be able to look at this photograph and be able to identify what's in the photograph, and the other half will not be able to. Okay. Um, and the thing is that when we talk about motivation and skill set, if you're part of the group that knows what that is, okay, it doesn't matter if you know it, if you have no motivation to identify it, right? Like if I ask you in person, like, oh, do you know what that item is? Maybe you just like, I don't even care. Like, I don't know. You know, like you just don't have the motivation to even bother answering that, right? Now, let's say that you do have the motivation. Like, let's say, like, oh, you know what? If I give you this amount of money, will you be able to do it? You know, will you tell me what's on that? So now with that incentive, when you have the knowledge, you'll be able to answer it right away. However, for the 50% that doesn't, it doesn't matter how much motivation you supply them at that time, the lack of knowledge, the lack of skill set is still going to prevent them from demonstrating and telling you what that item is, right? And for me, I can see it, you know, clearly. You know, it's always one of those things where, like, for people that see it, they see it. For people that don't, they don't. And so it ends up being this thing where you really hits home to really understand that you can be really, really motivated for something and still not be successful at identifying it. What's that? What is it?
Yes.
Can you tell me? Tell the audience. What is that? Can you see what it is?
No.
No? How about I'll give you an hour of watching if you can tell me what that is?
No.
No? What is it? Do you know? Do you give up? You give up? Yes or no?
Yeah.
What is that? Can you see what that is? No? You don't know? Okay. Okay, I'll tell you, all right? Okay, it's a cow. See? Those are the eyes. That's the nose. Those are the ears.
Oh.
You see it now? Okay. Well, thank you for helping me. All right. So that's the key driver here, is that without the knowledge base, all right, it doesn't matter how motivated someone is, you still are not going to be able to do what you're able to do. Okay. All right. Now the problem is that you can have skill sets, and without motivation, you're not never going to get anything done, right? Like that's the truism for everything, right? Like if, oh, I have no motivation to exercise, am I going to actually go and exercise? No. All right. All right. My daughter made this little, what is it? What is that? Tell them.
What?
Tell them. What is it? Come here. What is that? Show everybody and tell them what
It's
it
gonna
is.
be backwards.
That's okay. What is it? Tell them.
No.
Louder.
No.
What? Go, you. Tell them what it is. I know you know. Come on. What? No, you tell them.
No.
Why not? All right. Then you go away because I got work to do. So you're either going to tell them or you're going to have to.
K-pop demon hunters.
I can't. I don't think they can hear you.
K-pop demon hunters.
All right. Yeah, like you know, it's very popular right now. And my daughter is caught up in the wave of K-pop Demon Hunter. So we were actually lucky enough. They showed like a weekend performance at a local theater, and so I took both my kids, and they really loved it. So I would recommend that movie if you have a kid. All right, all right. All right. So the story of life overall, right, is this part of it. Is that doesn't matter how brilliant you are, doesn't matter how gifted you are at something, without the motivation, you'll never realize that potential. You'll never achieve something for which you're capable because you lack the motivation. All right. So clearly, like, you're not going to be able to accomplish very much, if anything, without proper motivation. And the thing is that you cannot accomplish anything without skill either. So you need both the motivation and the skill to reach optimal performance. Okay? Now, the good thing here is all skills can be learned, right? Now, it might be easier or harder for some people. Like, oh, if you're more naturally coordinated, maybe dancing is an easier skill for you to learn. I have two left feet, which means that learning how to dance is going to be much more difficult for me. Okay. But it doesn't mean I can't learn how to dance or I won't be able to learn dance. It just means that the amount of practice that I would need, the amount of dedication and all of that is going to be more, okay, than somebody that's more naturally gifted. Right. Now, in life, we can learn skills from a variety of means, right? By ourselves, we can learn it from trial and error. Like, oh, there's things that you can try in life to see, like, oh, is this going to work? Is it not? And then through a lot of mistake making, you learn what to do and what not to do. Right? That generally is my style. Like, I make a lot of mistakes when I endeavor to do literally anything that you give in front of me. I can guarantee you I'm gonna mess it up and I'm gonna mess it up big time, right? I'm not gonna do well on that first or maybe even that second attempt. But with me, I know myself, you know, once I make those mistakes and I start practicing and doing more and more, I get really good at whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Okay. So ton of mistakes in the beginning. And then for me, I tend to get more and more efficient. It's almost like a proportional to the amount of mistakes I made at the very onset. All right. Now, the other thing is you can learn things systematically, right? Like, which means that, oh, if I want to learn something, I'm going to research it. I'm going to look at it YouTube. I'll look at multiple YouTube videos, how to do this, how to do that, and I can have somebody come in and teach me step by step how to accomplish something. All right. And that's what ABA is, right? Is this systematic teaching of skills to kids. Now, when we talk about the performance in kids with autism, there's a complexity to it that a lot of people just don't quite understand. Okay, the complexity is this: is that they have both this lack of skills integrated. Okay, it's enmeshed, it's kind of tied together with a lack of motivation. Okay, and a lot of times it's hard to really distinguish where how much knowledge the child really has with how much motivation that they have, right? And it's hard for most people to be able to tease those two apart. Okay, but just remember, in order to be really good at the performance side, you have to have both the skills and the motivation to produce those skills when called upon. Okay. Now, this is what most people will be able to quickly identify, right? Kids with autism generally lack any internal motivation to follow people's instructions, to follow societal norms, to adhere to what the group is doing. They just want to do things when they want to do them, right? And they definitely have no motivation to learn a lot of things that you want them to learn. Okay. So what usually happens is the kids will demonstrate a particular skill when they want to do it, okay, and never when you need them to do it. All right. And then that causes a lot of confusion because, like, do they know it? Do they not? And when it comes to those circumstances, most of the time, they know something, they just lack the motivation to do it. And you'll see that in highly situational responding, meaning like, oh, under very, very specific conditions, a child will answer, they'll answer well. And all across most other situations, they won't produce the same level of respond. Okay. Now, in ABA, where does this motivation come from? Okay. And motivation really comes from the consequences of our actions. And when we talk about the consequences of our actions, what we're really talking about is operant conditioning. Okay, we're learning through the consequences of what we did. So we did something, whatever consequences ensued, both good or bad, will affect what we're going to do in the future under similar circumstances. Okay, so reinforcement is utilized to increase particular behaviors. Okay, and punishment is used to decrease or eliminate other behaviors. Okay, but both of these serve as motivation for the child. The reinforcement motivates the child to do the right thing. The punishment motivates the child not to do the wrong thing. All right. Now, the thing is, consequences can be internal or external, or they're a combination of both. And for most of us, it's a combination of both, meaning there's a lot of things that motivate us internally, but are also motivated by external factors, right? So, uh, let's say your job, right? Like, oh, whatever it is that you do, you know, if you don't love your work, the motivation might just come from the paycheck, right? You are doing whatever work that you're doing to supply food and clothing and, home for your family, right? That is external motivation for you, right? That motivation to bring in the paycheck so that the family can live a better life, right? That's external. Now, for some folks like me, like I love my job, right? Like hopefully it comes through to everybody. I love what I do. I love making differences in the families that I work with. And for me, a huge part of my motivation is internal. Like I don't need other people to tell me like, oh, you did a good job. Oh, wow, look at you. It doesn't come from outside of me. I am really kind of happy when I see the child overcome their problem behaviors, that they can go and be successful at riding their bike, riding their scooter, graduate from one grade to the next, doing all that stuff. So for me, I get a lot of joy when I see those kind of things, right? And for different people, it's a mixture. Some they enjoy aspects of their job that brings them some internal motivation, while they are still like, oh, I'm doing this for the paycheck and that kind of stuff. And for human beings, this is very kind of complicated depending on the circumstance. Okay. But for the most part, there's generally speaking a mixture. All right. Now, the problem that we face with kids with autism is sometimes they have an extremely limited repertoire of skills, and what that really boils down to is they really have a hard time learning from a variety of different factors, right? From the lack of being able to easily generalize, the lack of imitation skills, to a whole host of other things. They just have a hard time learning. Okay. And now the funny thing is they have what a lot of people would call a spiked profile, meaning like, oh, there's some things that they can do really well and a lot of other things that they can't do well. And sometimes they demonstrate like, oh, a much more complex skill set than they otherwise would for most of their skills. Like, oh, they can be very good about labeling items, but they never ask for things that they're capable of asking for. And so that's what it's that staggering that makes it hard, because that's what throws people off. Like, oh, do you really know it or do you not? Okay. Now, the other thing is they also lack a lot of external motivation and internal motivation, right? Most of the kids, when we start off with them, what happens is that they don't enjoy a lot of things, right? Like they have very, very like, oh, I want to be left alone. I don't enjoy playing with toys. I don't enjoy interacting with somebody else. I don't enjoy being tickled. I don't enjoy being hugged. There's a whole variety, and every kid is slightly different in how that looks. But if you actually take a step back and take a look, the biggest problem is that they lack diversity. They lack enjoyment in a wide variety of interests or interactions or feelings, that kind of thing. All right. So they also have a very low tolerance for a wide variety of situations or conditions, right? They can't wait for something. Like there's no delay of gratification. They want it and they want it right now. Okay. They might have a lot of environmental sensitivities, like, oh, sounds or textures and things like that, right? That will affect their ability to even just tolerate being in the same room as like fluorescent lighting. Maybe they hear the buzzing that's associated with fluorescent lighting. Maybe the flicker of fluorescent lighting really kind of bothers them and they can't focus on anything else other than those sensitivities in their environment. Okay. They might be very, very rigid when it comes to their food, their clothing, or their schedule, right? Everything has to be a certain way. We have to drive down this street. We have to make a left on this particular street. I can only eat this. I've had kids that get started like they only eat eggs or they only eat Fig Newtons, and they will only wear the color blue or they refuse to wear anything with tags. So parents have to make sure that all their tags are gone and things like that. So there's all of these kind of things that impact the child from being able to access those things that other kids might otherwise enjoy. Okay. All right. So when we talk about what we do in treatment, we have to make sure that we expand, diversify all the things that they do that they would might enjoy in life, and we do that through reinforcement sampling. I think I've hammered this point home over and over again, but for us, like, oh, reinforcement sampling does a couple of things, right? One, it desensitizes them to a lot of situations for which they're highly sensitive, as well as building in more and more enjoyment for a wide variety of physical contact and interactions. Okay. Now, how it's done is through pairing, right? Like, oh, okay, we um, engage the child in the form of an item or an activity, an interaction that they probably don't like as much. And then we follow that up with something that we know for sure that they like. So that, oh, whenever this happens, something pleasant happens, right? So that we're kind of like transferring the enjoyment from one over to the other. And we're expanding and expanding all of those type of things that they otherwise wouldn't enjoy. Okay. We also work on a lot of frustration tolerance, right? Their ability to tolerate all the different environmental stimuli. Okay, all the things that trigger them, that bother them in their environment, we're working on helping them improve in those areas so that then they can access all the reinforcers that they would not otherwise access. Okay, so as they get more tolerant of situations, then that's when you'll find that they have access to things that they otherwise wouldn't enjoy, right? Like, so as an example, right? As we get the child to tolerate more and more foods, what we find is the foods that before they hated, now they start enjoying. The foods that texturally had really like strong control over all their behaviors, as we kind of reduce their sensitivity to that, what happens is their palate expands. They start to enjoy more and more foods and more different types of foods, right? And our job is always to expand the child's horizons, open them up so that they enjoy more and more things. Okay. So when we're looking at it, we have to do a couple of things, right? We have to work on the motivation side. We have to really build up all those things that will help them enjoy life. Okay. And then on the other side, we have to teach them all the skills that they're going to need to learn, okay, to be able to kind of like bring together with the motivation to produce the results that we want, the performance of their skills on an everyday basis, consistently be able to do that, consistently responding to everyone in their environment. Right. All right. The thing you have to understand is that we start always with the most basic skills, right? Imitation, matching, basic toy play, because if they can't perform those, they're going to have a much harder time as you increase the complexity of the things that you want to teach. So for us, it doesn't matter how much time that we need to spend on building up those imitation skills, because once the imitation skills click, their learning accelerates, okay? And that when you teach these basic skills and not rush through them, those basic skills are the foundation from which the entire structure is going to be built. So you're either building on a very strong foundation or a weak one, okay? And you need to make sure that you're building on a strong foundation. Okay. And the funny thing is, as the child learns and acquires more skills, the faster their learning will go. So as you add object labels and colors and shapes, and like you bring more and more language in, it gets easier and easier to teach them. Once I teach a child to read, then my stimuli, the things that I can use to help them learn, now greatly expand, right? That's what we're trying to do, is expand the child's learning. All right. So you have to remember, all the skills that we want the child to perform are going to be supported by the reinforcement that we give those skills, right? Now, the other thing is, those skills need to be taught, and they need to be taught systematically in order for the child to be knowledgeable of how to do that skill. And then you have to make sure you reinforce those skills so that they perform it more and more often and more consistently. And then on the flip side, we're going to suppress, we're going to demotivate, we're going to take away the child's motivation in terms of their problem behaviors by punishment or extinction. Okay. And so we're going to attach, every time they do something that they shouldn't do, we're going to pair it. We're going to pair it with a consequence that they're not going to enjoy, so that over time they are not motivated to engage in that problematic behavior anymore. All right. Either it's because they don't get what they want from engaging in the behavior, which is the extinction side, or it's being paired all the time with unpleasant consequence connected to what they're doing. Okay. All right. Hopefully that clears up any confusion that parents might have, onward to our questions. First question is, son was born in 2021, 4 years old now. When he lies on the bed, he keeps tearing the wallpaper on the wall that his bed touches. He hasn't damaged any other wallpaper, but he especially tears only this spot. And this is an example of the spot that gets torn. So they think like, oh, maybe he likes the feeling of tearing it, because when they check him in the morning, it's been picked at again, so they're wondering what they should do. All right. Well, one thing is, I would look at when he does it. Does he only do it in morning and not at night? If he does it in the morning, is it that, oh, he doesn't feel that he can get up out of bed, or that he just enjoys the sensation of doing it, and the easiest thing to do is like set up like a baby cam in the room, and then just check in on him to see like, oh, what leads into the behavior. Does he just wake up and he notices it and then he starts to pick at it? Is it that he wakes up and then he's like, okay, like he doesn't do anything and doesn't do anything, in which case he might be bored and he's like, oh, wait a minute, there's something to do here, right? Because that will matter overall how you approach the treatment side. How do you kind of get rid of this problematic behavior? Now, if the child just enjoys the process, a lot of times you just have to pair it with some sort of consequence. You show them like, no tearing the toilet paper, and you give them a consequence so that every time you catch them doing it or you catch them having done it, then you consecrate them. You give them a non-preferred, unenjoyable consequence so that they learn like, oh, okay, this is something I shouldn't do. Now, if it's a boredom side issue, then a lot of times like, oh, we have to teach them what to do. Oh, when you get up, this is the thing you can do. You can go grab a toy, you can get out of bed, engage with something more appropriate rather than just lie in bed, not do anything, and start engaging in something that will just occupy your time. Okay, so I would look at those factors, see kind of like, oh, what's affecting your child, and I would try some of the suggestions. If it doesn't work out, by all means, let me know so that we can help you figure things out. All right. The next question has to do with child difficulty in continuously jump rope. He can 2 to 3 jumps, but no more than about 5 at the most.
팔 옆구리 붙이고 해. 붙이고. 줄넘기 해보자. 줄넘기 할 때 이렇게 잡고, 이렇게. 여기 팔꿈치 붙이고, 이렇게. 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 이리 와, 제자리. 제자리 오세요. 준비. 자, 줄 돌려. 이렇게. 손 안서 됐어. 네, 뛰죠. 조용히. 줄넘기. 이렇게.
All right. Now, mom thinks that he can't rotate the rope enough by moving his whole arm, so he can't continue. They tried practicing using his elbows and wrists, like in the video there, and she's just wondering, is this the right approach? All right. Well, the good news is that when it comes to jumping rope, the first jump and being able to successfully clear the jump is actually the most important jump, right? Like that is by far, once you get that step, the toughest parts are over, right? Then you get into being continuously jumping, right? That's the next harder one, but the biggest one obstacle is overcome. This is the next biggest one, which is like, oh, being able to do it continuously. But because he's able to do at least 2 or 3 and up to 5, he has the ability to do it now, right? Now, part of the problem is going to be one of physical strength and physical endurance, right? Now, as far as the actual method, like, we teach a lot of the rotating the wrists and things like that. But honestly, once the child's able to do the jump roping, we kind of just like, okay, we work with them on just building up their endurance and building up their strength. Okay. Now, a couple of things will be impacting your child. One is going to be the jumping itself, because jump roping is really hard work and jumping up and down is really exhausting, right? So separately, I think you have to work on them being able to jump for longer periods of time and be able to sustain that jumping. Okay. The other one is the arm movements and the rotations. Now, for me, then I think, with that, I think you have to build endurance, which means you have to just go through a lot of practice to kind of build that endurance up. And in the beginning, what I would recommend is like, having that like a certain threshold, right? Okay, now we know you can do up to 3. Every single time we have to hit 3 before you're done with this task. So you set that requirement until they can do it. And then what you were looking for is that they can do 3 consecutive jump ropes on the first time every single time before you start to increase the level of difficulty. The problem I find with most folks is they're in a rush to get to the end. And so what they'll tend to do is they'll escalate too early. So before the child's ready, before they're really good and consistent with something, then they make it more and more difficult for them. So they're all requiring like 5 of them when even getting 1 sometimes is still a struggle. Okay. So I think that's the approach I would take. I think it's okay to practice that because it doesn't hurt to always have the good form in there. But I think more of what's impacting your child is probably going to be the strength and endurance side. All right. Now, the other thing that mom is practicing is asking whether he can play the piano when someone else is playing it. And they came up with several responses for the child, like, asking the person, can I play the piano? The person saying, no, I'm playing right now. And the child say, okay, you can go, and that's the method that mom structured the conversation. Okay. So nice flow chart in terms of teaching the child which direction to go in terms of being able to ask questions or whatnot.
물어봐.
나 피아노 쳐도 돼?
아니, 나 지금 치고 있어.
알겠어.
옳지, 잘했어요. 놀아도 돼요? 지금 성이가 피아노 치고 싶은데 신이가 치고 있어. 뭐라고 할 거야?
야, 피아노 쳐도 돼?
아니, 나 지금 치고 있어.
알겠어.
그렇지, 잘했어. 지금 신이가 피아노 치고 있는데 성이가 피아노 치고 싶어요. 물어봐요.
신아 피아노 쳐도 돼?
쳐도 돼.
응. 고마워.
그렇지. 물어봐.
신아 피아노 쳐도 돼?
너 쳐도 돼.
고마워.
옳지, 잘했다. 좋았어.
All right. Now, he's able to do very short conversations like this, but if the conversation were to continue, is it right to teach it in this way? And so she gave an example like, can I play the piano? No, I'm playing right now. How long are you going to be playing? Or how many more minutes do you have left? Or can I play first? I'm making the conversation branch out in a lot of different directions. Okay. All right. And so the question is, what is a good way to teach them? All right. So I for myself, for this type of exchange, I don't think the child needs a large diversity of kind of like branches, right? So here, like it's very simple. They're either the person is either gonna allow you to kind of go first, or you're gonna have to wait to play the piano, right? So any of the questions, I'm gonna have to deal with that, and it looks like, you did a good job of formulating, like, okay, what questions can my child ask? Okay, and to me that looks like a good order for him to learn. Now, when I look at the video, to me, it seems like, the visual prompting was pulled away a little bit too early, because you can see your child has to really sit and think before he can produce the correct response. So that means like, he doesn't have that flow chart very quick yet, and you want that flow chart to be nice and quick before looking at fading that out. All right. And so, for myself, like, the two fundamental questions is, can I go first? If they say no, then it's asking like, when will you be done? Or, when will I be able to play? Something like that. But again, I don't know that you need a big, diverse amount of different ways to ask. I think those are just the fundamental ways and just getting them good and efficient with asking and going down that decision tree. All right. Hopefully that answers everyone's questions. I think if you have any other questions or I didn't help adequately answer those, by all means, let us know in the cafe, post it on the stream, and I'll make sure to revisit and be a little bit more thorough in my explanation. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We really appreciate you spending your valuable time with us. Hopefully you learned something and it helps you in your everyday life. Just remember to, before you go, please hit like this channel, please subscribe to us, and tell all your friends about us. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.